Home purchases are getting canceled at the highest rate in over a decade. And if you're not paying attention, you could lose tens of thousands of dollars on your next real estate deal. We're talking about 58,000 canceled home purchase agreements in July alone. That's 1 in every 6 deals falling apart at the last minute. But here's what nobody's telling you. There are 3 specific markets where nearly 25% of all deals are collapsing. And if you're buying or selling in these areas, you need to know exactly what's happening. We're about to show you the data that mortgage lenders don't want you to see, including the shocking reason why young buyers are literally skipping meals just to afford rent. And stick around. Don't touch that dial. I hate that saying. Because I'll reveal the one number that every expert agrees will determine if this market crashes or rebounds and when that's likely to happen. Look, we've been analyzing real estate data for years, and what we're seeing right now is unprecedented. According to fresh Redfin data from August 2025, we hit a 15.3% cancellation rate in July. Now you might think, okay, that doesn't sound that bad, huh? But let me put this in perspective for you. Before the pandemic, normal cancellation rates were around 12%. We're now running 15 to 27% higher than those pre-pandemic norms. The only months we've seen worse, March 2020 when COVID hit, and October 2022 when mortgage rates first crossed 7%. But here is what the data reveals that should really concern you. This isn't spread evenly across the country. Have you noticed what's happening in your local market? Because in San Antonio, Texas, nearly 1 in 4 home purchases, 22.7%, are falling through. Fort Lauderdale, 21.3%. Jacksonville, 19.9%. Now, I mentioned 3 markets where this is hitting hardest. And here's where it gets really interesting. Every single top 10 cancellation market is in the Sunbelt, with Texas and Florida absolutely dominating this list. Tampa's at 19.5%, Atlanta at 19.7%. And it's not random. No, there's something specific happening in these states that's causing buyers to run for the exits, and we're about to explain exactly what that is. Meanwhile, and this is crucial if you're thinking about where to invest, Nassau County, New York has just a 5.1% cancellation rate. Milwaukee, 8.3%. The contrast is staggering, and it tells us something important about where this market is headed. So why are Texas and Florida leading this cancellation crisis? Well, both states lead the nation in new construction during the pandemic boom, and now they're absolutely drowning in inventory. Let me give you the hard numbers here. Florida has 172,209 homes for sale right now, up 22.7% year over year, the highest on record. Texas, 138,255 homes on the market, up 27% from last year. The Dallas-Fort Worth Metro alone has 30,998 active listings. That's a 67% increase, folks, the highest inventory in a decade. But here's what's really killing these deals: insurance costs. And this is where it gets personal for a lot of you watching. In Florida, homeowners now pay an average of $5,376 per year for insurance. That's 2.5 times the national average of $2,181. But wait, it gets worse. In coastal areas like Hollywood, Florida, residents are paying up to $10,856 annually. Add mandatory flood insurance averaging $953 per year, and suddenly that dream home costs an extra $1,000 per month just in insurance. Have you factored that into your budget? Because most buyers haven't, and that's when deals fall apart. Texas faces the same challenge. Average premiums hit $4,078 yearly, with places like Corpus Christi reaching $6,581. After Hurricanes Helene and Milton hammered Florida in 2024, and with meteorologists predicting a 70% chance of hurricane impacts for Texas in 2025, buyers are understandably getting cold feet. FEMA just updated their flood maps, adding 138,800 structures to high-risk zones in South Florida alone. That means thousands of homes that didn't need flood insurance last year suddenly require it now. But here's what the mainstream media isn't telling you about mortgage rates. We're sitting at 6.58% for a 30-year mortgage right now, fluctuating between 6.4% and 7% throughout 2025. Let me break it down, what this actually means for your wallet. A $400,000 home with 20% down costs $2,564 per month at today's rates. That same home would have cost just $1,686 monthly at the 3% rates we saw in 2021. That's an extra $878 every single month, or $10,536 per year, plus property taxes and homeowners insurance. Can you afford an extra 10 to 20 grand a year? Most people can't. I know I can't. The Federal Reserve has kept rates elevated, holding steady at 4.25 to 4.5% through all 8 meetings so far in 2025. Despite housing affordability reaching crisis levels, and trust me, we're at crisis levels, Fed Chair Jerome Powell keeps citing inflation concerns. The market expects maybe a quarter-point cut in September, but let's be real, that barely moves the needle. A Cleveland Redfin agent told me something fascinating. I recently had an older first-time buyer get cold feet the week before closing. Beautiful house, right price, no inspection issues, but her neighbors convinced her that owning is too much hassle. This is happening everywhere. Buyers are making offers based on rough estimates, only to discover during underwriting that property taxes, insurance, and HOA fees push their payment beyond what they can handle. Now, remember I mentioned young buyers are skipping meals? This is where the story gets really troubling. A comprehensive Redfin survey from May 2025 revealed that 70% of Gen Z and millennial renters struggle to afford their regular housing payments. But here's the breakdown that should shock you. 40% are eating out less, 31% are taking no vacations, 27% are borrowing money from family, 25% are working extra shifts. And this one's heartbreaking. 22% are literally skipping meals to make rent. The median Gen Z income sits at just $45,000 annually. Millennials, $47,034 individually. Compare that to the $127,500 median household income for older millennials who are actually buying homes, and you see this massive gap. Student debt makes it worse. 43% of younger millennials carry a median balance of $30,000, taking 20 years to repay on average. Look at these home ownership stats. Only 26.3% of adult Gen Zers own homes. They represent just 3% of all home buyers. First-time buyers have collapsed to 24% of the market, the lowest share since 1981. The median first-time buyer age? 38 years old. In 1981, it was 29, and in the 70s, it was 24. Please take 2 seconds to help me out and hit the like and subscribe if you find this video interesting so far. Each like, subscribe, and share helps support this channel and keeps us motivated to keep making you great content. Thank you. Now, let's continue. Here's what's creating opportunity for those who can buy. And pay attention because this could save you thousands. National inventory has reached 1.1 million active listings, up 25% year over year. 12 states, including Arizona, Colorado, Florida, and Texas, now have inventory above 2019 levels. New construction adds another 481,000 homes to the market, though only 21% are actually completed and ready to occupy. This inventory surge has triggered something we haven't seen in years. By June 2025, 39.5% of homes had reduced their asking price, a 15-year high. The typical home now sits on the market for 43 days, the longest for any July since 2015. In Florida and Texas, 70 to 72 days, with some markets seeing homes lingering over 90 days. Builders are getting desperate. Have you noticed this in your area? 62% are offering sales incentives, including mortgage rate buydowns, closing cost assistance up to $7,500, and direct price cuts of 5 to 10%. Dallas agent Crystal Schurnt told us some buyers are canceling because another home pops up that they like better, or they discover a flaw and get nervous. I've also heard of buyers backing out because they're hoping prices or rates will plummet soon. Now, that number I mentioned that determines if we crash or rebound, it's 5%. Every expert agrees if mortgage rates hit 5% or lower, this market explodes with pent-up demand. If they stay above 6%, we're looking at continued stagnation through 2026. Let me share what the experts are predicting, and there's significant disagreement here. NAR chief economist Lawrence Yun projects a 9% increase in existing home sales for 2025, with 2% annual price growth through 2026. He expects mortgage rates to stabilize in the 5.5% to 6.5% range, calling this the new normal. But Redfin's Daryl Fairweather sees something different. 4% price growth in 2025, with mortgage rates around 6.8%. She argues if the housing market were going to crash, it would have already crashed. However, she predicts 2025 will be a renter's market, with flat rent prices while wages increase. Here's the contrarian view that should get your attention. Zillow projects home prices will actually decline 0.9% between now and April 2026, the first calendar year decrease since 2011. They're citing rising inventory, giving buyers more options and bargaining power. JP Morgan, they're the most pessimistic, describing the housing market as largely frozen through 2025. Their head of securitized products research states bluntly, the situation won't change until mortgage rates return to 5% or lower, and we aren't forecasting rates to breach 6% in 2025. Consumer confidence adds another layer here. The Conference Board Index plummeted to 86 in April 2025, the lowest since COVID. We've got 24% of Americans delaying major purchases due to tariff concerns, and betting markets showing 47% recession probability for 2025. So what does this mean for you specifically? If you're a buyer, this data suggests patience might pay off. With cancellation rates at record highs and inventory rising, you have more negotiating power than any time since 2019. Don't rush. Take time for thorough inspections, push for seller concessions, and yes, walk away if the numbers don't work. Consider making backup offers on homes that fall out of contract. If you're selling, price realistically from day one. With 39.5% of homes requiring price reductions and average days on market stretching past 40, overpricing means your home will sit and ultimately sell for less. Be prepared to offer concessions, especially if you're in Texas or Florida. For the broader economy, and this affects all of us, when 15.3% of agreed upon purchases fall through and 70% of young renters struggle to afford basic housing, we're seeing structural problems that threaten long-term stability. Housing has historically driven economic growth through construction jobs, furniture sales, and wealth building through equity. With first-time buyers at historic lows and young adults living with parents or skipping meals to pay rent, that engine is sputtering. The regional disparities tell us something important too. Sunbelt states that led pandemic-era growth are now seeing the highest cancellations, potentially signaling broader economic rebalancing. As client risks and insurance costs make Florida and Texas less attractive, we might see migration patterns reverse completely. Look, the path forward requires multiple solutions. Mortgage rates need to moderate. Builders must focus on affordable starter homes rather than luxury properties. And policymakers need to address the insurance crisis in climate-vulnerable areas. Until these factors align, expect cancellation rates to remain elevated and the generational divide in home ownership to widen. This isn't just another housing story. It's about the American dream becoming increasingly out of reach for millions. When young adults sacrifice meals for shelter and a quarter of home deals fall apart in major cities, we're witnessing a fundamental shift in how Americans experience housing. So here's my question for you, and I really want you to think about this. Do you think this trend will continue, or do you think it will improve in the future? Are we headed for a crash, a soft landing, or just more of this frozen market? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. We read every single one, and we're genuinely curious what you're seeing in your local market. Because based on current trends and everything we've shown you today, we're in for a bumpy ride through 2026. The question isn't whether the market will adjust, but whether that adjustment comes through gradual rebalancing or something more dramatic. And if you're planning to buy or sell in the next 12 months, you need to be prepared for either scenario. If you found this video interesting, please subscribe, share, and go ahead and watch this one as well.